You may recognize the spot. It's just north of the distinctive tower of the Encino power plant in Carlsbad. There are many reasons that a private company, Poseidon Resources, chose this site for a huge desalination plant. Poseidon's Peter Maclaggan says one is that San Diego badly needs an insurance policy in case it gets cut off from water supplies.
We get almost 90% of our water from somewhere outside San Diego County, and that somewhere else is, and that water from somewhere else is the subject of intense competition. It's a subject of comprehensive regulations and drought, and depends on snowpack and rainfall to get here. So we're looking to the Pacific Ocean for a partial solution to San Diego supplies, to look for at least one source that's under local control, drought-proof, and not dependent on snowpack and rainfall.
Another reason this is a good site is Poseidon will be able to use the ocean intake and outfall channels built by the power plant for its cooling system.
For the purposes of the desalination plant, we're going to use 300 million gallons a day.
Of that 300 million gallons of ocean water, 100 million will go through a reverse osmosis system.
You introduce the seawater through these little holes under high pressure, and as the water flows down through the membrane, some of it, which is flowing through these blue channels, is going to pass across the membrane, become fresh water, and enter this center collection tube. So the fresh water comes out the middle, and then the remaining salts and all the remaining seawater will flow straight through out the back.
Water goes through these filters 8 times before it's drinkable. Maclaggan says the membranes inside are enough to stretch from San Diego to Sacramento. Then the extra salty seawater goes back to the ocean.
For every gallon of concentrated seawater that's returned here, we bring in 2 more gallons of seawater to mix with it before the combined flow goes out to the ocean.
Critics of the plant say the company won't be able to dilute the salty water enough to avoid harming marine life. They also accuse the project of making money for investors at the expense of ratepayers. Investors will pay for the plant, but they'll be paid back as ratepayers buy the water. Critics say recycling existing water supplies to drinkable standards would be cheaper. Orange County already has a big water recycling, or IPR, plant. But it feeds water from the plant into a huge groundwater basin before treating it again. San Diego doesn't have such an underground holding tank, and getting state permits is more difficult. Sandra, Kerl, Deputy General Manager of San Diego's Water Authority, says the county couldn't afford to pass up this shovel-ready project.
This project has been, is ready to go at this point. And I think when IPR is ready to go, there will be a need there as well.
Kerl says ratepayers will see the benefit of building the desalination plant now, because interest rates are really low and borrowing money for the project is cheap.
So it's a very good time to be hitting the bond market.
There are 24 different water agencies represented on the San Diego County Water Authority. Gary Arant of the Valley Center Water District supports the desalination project.
The reality is that the cheap water supplies, the State Water Project, the Colorado River, that's over. In other words, the next increment of supply is going to be much more expensive.
But like several other water agencies, Arant is worried that some districts might end up bearing the brunt of the higher costs of the desalinated water. He has concerns about how the extra costs will be shared across the region.
Of course I do, because there's no certainty as how it's going to turn out.
But Arant says one thing is certain: water rates will be going up.
Make a copy of your water bill and stick it in the drawer and pull it out in 10 years, and it'll look very cheap.
Sandra Kerl says a lot of people will be watching how this desalination project goes.
There's 12 desal projects in various stages of consideration in the state of California. Depending on how this project goes, will, I'm sure, impact whether or not those projects move forward. For California, that is very dependent on water and very challenged by water sources, it could provide an opening to this state that hasn't been there before to have a much more reliable source of supply.
Desalinating water from the ocean is more expensive than recycling existing sources of drinking water. The unfortunate phrase "toilet to tap" has made recycling more difficult for the public to swallow. The decision to buy water from this desalination plant is an historic one, but it will be years in the future till we know if it was a wise choice.